Okay, so Tom, you were just talking about what game you had the sound on. Did you switch the sound back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because you needed to hear all of the sounds that were coming from Happy Valley, including the shocking, stunning silence after the interception that ended the game. So how did you enjoy the roller coaster ride of Drew Aller on this year's Saturday night?
I got a lot of heat for just kind of being emotional and going off the dome and having a reaction last week about Dylan Raiola. So I'm going to try to approach that question with calmness and an even tone and say that Drew Aller made a spectacular throw for the first touchdown. It might have legitimately been the best throw he's ever made in his career. But Drew Aller is Drew Aller at this point. And I think we really kind of need to stop pretending he's anything else, because you look at it, he finished the game 14-25, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, the interception. Now, the interception, I don't think was a bad throw. I mean, I haven't seen the all-22 angle of it, but from the television broadcast, I don't think it was a bad decision to make the throw. I think it was just a great play by Dylan Thieneman to leap up and make that interception. Like maybe most guys can break that up, but very few guys, I think, are picking that off. So I think that was just a great play on the defense's part. But you see on the stats there, like Devontae Ross had that long touchdown pass. But outside of that, it was another game in which Penn State is playing a good team, and they cannot get the receivers involved in the passing game at all. It was all Dinkins and Singleton, the running backs and the tight ends. And it wasn't until it was probably a little too late, although they forced overtime, for really to get the receivers involved. And it's just the same thing we've seen 1,000 times now with Drew Aller and Penn State in these games. He's not up to the level that they need him to be if they're going to win these games and to compete for a national title. He might get them back to the Big Ten championship. He might get them back to the college football playoff, and they might win a game or two again. But they're not going to get past the semis. And I don't think he's bad. I just think that he is who he is. He's better than most, but he's not good enough for Penn State for what they want to do.
Yeah, I don't feel like he played terribly tonight, but he didn't really elevate them for the most part. The touchdown throw was a great throw. He made a couple of other throws that I thought were really nice, honestly. Like the one where he's like slipping down, trying to avoid the pass rush and like zips it out there was pretty good. He took some shots and hung in there. It didn't seem like he was like really quick with seeing it, and that's kind of been obviously like he clearly didn't see, Thieneman or I assume he didn't see him, right? Now, that's a hell of a play by Dylan, but like ultimately, yeah, it just felt like he didn't elevate them throughout the game. Now in the fourth quarter, Dew was pretty nails, honestly, and seemed to have a real command of the offense. It felt like when they had to have it, they kept stepping up until obviously overtime, and they had to have it there, and they did not step up. Those look like two really good football teams, honestly. If the refs didn't allow like a lot of holding on both sides, we might have like a 0-0 game.
Like that yes, would have shout out to the refs for getting us some points.
NBC is like very thankful, given what some of the numbers have been so far. That like the refs were like, yeah, we're gonna allow some holding here, guys. that could have been 3-3 for eternity. Just with how good the pass rush was, and how at times some of the pass protection was from both sides without holding. That was a good defensive game that ended 30-24 because it went to double overtime.
Right. Because we are a podcast of accountability, we doubted or at least considered whether or not Penn State would be able to flip the switch. Do you think that you saw from Penn State a performance that was, worthy of saying that they could flip a switch, that they came out of the bye week with a level that you wanted to see from a team that is trying to win a national championship?
Not offensively. Not until the fourth quarter. Like, the stat was, and they include the overtime in this, I believe, so it might be changed at this point. But no, they didn't. Through 3 quarters, Penn State had 109 yards of offense. They had 69 at halftime.
Nice.
Fourth quarter, they had 142. Thank you, Chip. They got to overtime, and kudos to them for the comeback, because I like I said, I'd written them off, and they came all the way back. And so that was awesome. It was great to see. And I thought they were, if they pulled out that win with that comeback in the fourth quarter, I think the entire narrative about Penn State is flipped on its head forever. but they didn't. And the offense did nothing for 3 quarters, and it put them in that hole. And that defense was phenomenal. They did a great job on defense, but the offense just didn't do its part, and it cost them. And we've seen it too many times. Penn State's defense plays great. Like what last year they held Ohio State to 14 points, I think it was.
It was 20, but you're right.
Yeah.
But it was like a low-scoring single-digit game the entire time. They even had the pick 6 on Will Howard for their points to get for Penn State, and the offense just never did anything to help. So, no, I don't think they flipped a switch. I think Penn State's offense is just Penn State's offense. It's not very good.
Agreed. As far as flipping the switch, a couple things that they sort of like hid Devontae Ross, you know? They didn't use him a lot so far this season. Tonight, though, like they broke him out. Obviously, he had the 2 scores, looked pretty good. There were some things I liked from this Penn State offense. Obviously, not enough. Like you have those backs. You have a very veteran offensive line. In some ways, I would almost take more issue with that, man, than Allard. Like, I don't think Allard played great. I don't think he played terribly, to be honest. Like were there? I don't think there were a whole lot of throws that he just flat out missed when I was watching it. But like they were not getting a lot of push in the run game. And all offseason we heard, hey, this is the best Penn State line we've had in quite a long time. You have Singleton, right? You have Katron Allen, and just didn't they didn't go nuts. Those guys, Singleton and Allen combined for 75 yards on 23 carries.
Yeah, coming into the game,
That's worse than Drew Allard going 14 to 25 for $137, I think.
Coming into the game, Nick Singleton was at 4.4 yards per carry. Tonight he was 11 for 21. He helped out in the passing game, but I don't know what's going on there. He's just not been good. But I feel like we should probably turn our attention to Oregon, the team that actually won the football game.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the team that might be the best team in the country?
Might be.
Yeah.
We'll get to tomorrow's top 25 today a little bit later on in the show in terms of where Oregon will fall after a dramatic win on the road at Penn State. I just I shared with me. I could tell. I mean, obviously, Dan's a big fan of the Cover 3 podcast. So Dan, congratulations. I know you're obviously watching right now in the locker room.
Throat slash was a little premature though, bro.
But no, it's the thing about the cuts, right?
Yeah.
He said it to the team's radio broadcast going into halftime, right? He said, and it's very obvious that that's the message that he had for his team and that he then brought to the post game when he was talking on NBC and that he's probably talking about right now at the post game press conference. But he was so right that when you're playing Penn State in Happy Valley, it's like you are going to have to just take a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and then you might pop one, and then you might get the plays that you need. Now, granted, they definitely started to get it a little bit earlier and then finally ended up getting it again in double overtime. But what stood out to you the most about what the Ducks were able to do here?
I mean, DeCorian Moore had more receiving yards and more catches than the 2 Penn State transfers they took, who we heard a lot about, right? Hudson and Pena. Pena had 2 catches for 16. Hudson had 0 for 0. So, to me, he was a huge. How many first down catches did he have? 10 targets, 7 catches, 89 yards, long of 29. I mean, repeatedly getting himself open, moving the chains. He was a dude.
But you know what I loved?
What?
The empty, not empty, but when Oregon gets the ball back, they've got 26 seconds left. I mean, it's less than 30 seconds. You just okay, we'll take one sort of see what happens. And what was the see what happens? We're gonna put 3 wide receivers out on the perimeter, give it to DeCorian Moore, and just see if the most athletic skill position player that we have can make something amazing happen, because we trust him as a true freshman, not to screw this up and turn this into something horrific. And B, he's also the player with the highest athletic ceiling to do something incredible. Yeah. Nothing happened. He ends up getting wrapped up. The game goes to overtime. But I think that speaks to the same thing that Dan told us back in July, that this is somebody who has exhibited a workman-like mentality and earned the trust of the coaching staff and the team. Just not surprised at all that he was one of the biggest stars here today for Oregon's offense.
Yeah, I think looking at this, DeCorian played really well. Dante Moore, the moment, like he played pretty well. Like I don't know if he was like a superstar in this game, but he certainly didn't wilt under the pressure. And I thought Oregon was the more physical team on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
What I was impressed with from Oregon's offense is that, really difficult environment. They had 2 false starts in the game. And you see a lot of times with like inexperienced quarterbacks. And again, they've also got 4 new players on their offensive line going into this environment, and they've been at home. I mean, did they play Oregon State on the road? I don't know if I count that. But anyway,
that one was I think that one was in Eugene, but
either way, like in that environment, you typically you expect to see a lot of pre-snap mistakes, false starts, all that kind of stuff, and they avoided it. I think the quarterback deserves a lot of credit for that. I think the offensive line deserves a lot of credit for that. And I just think that Moore, he is inexperienced as far as maybe overall game time, but he's been around for a few years. He did have 1 season as starter at UCLA. Like, he's not a veteran, but he showed veteran poise. So I thought he played well. I do think that, there are times when he gets pressured, he kind of just does a fadeaway jumper with his throw that could probably get him into trouble, but he got away with it. And I think Moore was the better quarter. I think Moore showed me more tonight in one big, huge game than Drew Aller has shown me in like 10 huge games to this point in his career. And I think that you look at it too, like Bud, you mentioned the receivers. I also think Oregon just has more dudes on offense than Penn State does.
Yeah, they do.
Like, Deere Hill, I know Dan Lanning is saying that, he's like saying we're going to go running back by committee and ride the hot hand. I don't know if you need to. I feel like what I saw from Deere Hill tonight suggests that he's probably your featured guy, and then you can spell him with Whittington and Moore and those other guys. I thought Gary Bryant Jr. had a big game. Kenyon Sadiq. There's just dudes on this offense. They've got multiple options, and it feels like when they're in tight spots, you don't really know what direction they're going to go because they could go a number of different ways, and it works for them. And defensively, they did a good job. They shut down the run game. They took away those receivers. They did everything they could to fluster Drew Aller. Like Penn State, their defensive lineman got held all damn night, but they still got 2 sacks and they still got 5 tackles for loss. Penn State only had 1. So, yeah, they were just the better football team, and they went on the road into a really difficult environment, and they won a game, although they almost blew it, but they didn't. They won.
Shout out to Will Stein, too. I mean, Jim Knowles is a hell of a DC, and I thought Stein called a great game to get that many young guys on offense and that many new pieces ready to go into an environment like that. And like, they ran a lot of scheme. And that's not easy to do with all those young guys. Like that. That's I don't know if Penn State anticipated them running all that they ran. Like there was a lot of creative stuff in there. I was really impressed by just like how much you're able to get into that playbook. Well, in the playbook, but also like get into the brains of your young players. Like that was huge.
Do you think that there was a moment here? You mentioned the defense and the lines of scrimmage. I did think Penn State's offensive line, I wanted to give them credit as the game went on and Penn State needed to get those first downs and needed to keep the ball moving. It felt like they were getting a good push. And maybe there's just, you can only expect but so much. I thought I saw big number 1 out there. I know Bear wasn't making like a million plays, but he was on the field for super significant snaps and being a part of helping a winning effort. We mentioned him again going into it. I think that I think that there is a way that Oregon can win football games. I think that at the lines of scrimmage, they are good enough because of everything else that they have, because of their running backs and their wide receivers, their tight ends, because of their linebackers, their edge rushers. I think they are good enough to be able to, even because look, Penn State might be one of the most physical lines of scrimmage team they play all year. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so in that environment too, I mean, it's a good football team, and congrats, Daniel. You're obviously jacked up. I saw somebody mentioned, like if your head coach isn't a little bit of a psychopath, are you ever going to win anything?
No.
No. Like, you got
No.
Okay. Who do we
Nope.
running down the list of recent champions?
no.
Nope.
You gotta have some serious broken brain.
Honestly, that if you're an AD, that should be the first thing you look for when interviewing the guys. It's like,
One guy had a
do
bunch of psychopaths playing for him. Okay,
I
so
feel like this guy would kill me. Okay, yeah, he's the guy I want to hire.
Yeah, so again, we'll do the rankings reaction coming up in just a little bit. Anything else from Happy Valley here in the again, like the game just ended. We're gonna go back. We'll be getting our reviews. A lot more to come on Monday, I'm sure. But what else? Anything else stand out from this game that we want to make sure we get on the record on a busy Saturday night?
I thought Hill just ran smart too, like with
Ooh, yeah.
at a time in which like you could be impatient because like the moment is so big. I thought he had like he wasn't slow to it, but he had like the right amount of tempo on his runs to figure out where those creases were going to be.